Hello and welcome back to Escaping Kerbin. In today's episode, we are going to try to mirror what we've been doing in the previous one in the mission where we send Kerbals to each moon as a tourist contract to gain a large amount of money very quickly. First off, we're going to just look at our contracts. We don't have very many, and we don't have any that are really focused on tourism. So we are going to head over here into Mission Control and see what we can grab. So ideally we want to grab anything that deals with science around either the bun or mid-miss, or bringing Kerbals into a flyby of it. We don't want any where we have to land. We don't want any where we have to drop by a specific site. So we grab all the relevant contracts, and then we grab that one and that one. And so we have ourselves a contract to have Kerbals in orbit, and a contract to have a couple Kerbals go by the Mun, and two different contracts to get Kerbals by mid-miss. So we're going to need a lot of space on this. Each one of these contracts must have a pilot, and we must have life support to not only house them for the journey, but in case something goes wrong, we need to have enough resources for them to live almost indefinitely, long enough to get ourselves a rescue craft. This is something that we're going to have to start thinking of going forward. In the next episode, we take a large step forward in the program's history as we attempt to peek outside the curtain of Kerbin's SOI. So we have to start thinking about the long-term life-preserving abilities of our crafts. So here I was just building the general capsule of what's going to come back to Kerbin, and I'm checking the parachutes to make sure that they will be able to handle it. I use the stage recovery mod to calculate that. So now the boosters that I'm putting here are just meant to maximize our Delta V usage. We want to just overbuild on this. We want to have as much fuel as possible. It doesn't matter if we waste some. We're going to be paid quite a large sum to get these Kerbals back to solid ground, so we want to make no exceptions, take no shortcuts in our build. We also throw a bunch of parachutes onto the side boosters here, see if we can try to recover some of those funds, at least be somewhat conscious of it. However, for the center piece, we are going to be putting explosives. So now, to get a better thrust-to-weight ratio as well as better Delta V usage in the atmosphere, we are going to double up the side boosters and asparagus stage them. And for those who may not know, the asparagus staging is those yellow tubes that I connect from one booster to the other. And essentially what they do is, as the whole craft is firing, some fuel is being drained from one tank into the other, so that way once the side boosters are dropped, the subsequent tanks are being fully refueled. Excuse me. So we throw explosives on the ends of those because we're not sure where we're going to be in orbit, and we don't want to leave space trash through this. We go ahead and load up all the Kerbals who are tourists, plus a pilot and an engineer. We want to have someone around who can fix something if need be. So here we are at the launch day. Evening, I should say. And it's going to be a generally typical launch. We're doing this all by hand, no mech jeb here. 5-pila engines, though, give a lot of control and a lot of thrust to weight ratio, or just a lot of thrust, excuse me, that we can kind of just steer this wherever we want to. And with that, the side boosters coming down, and hopefully those parachutes will activate, and the stage recovery mod will calculate their descent. And if it's low enough, if it's a small enough meters per second descent, then we will gain some funds back from that. And so here I was just checking alert contracts to make sure that all of the Kerbals on board were the ones that were supposed to be, and no one was left behind. Kind of a little late now, but at least we checked it at some point. So we brought up the stage recovery widget that you see there on the left hand side, and eventually we will check that and we'll see whether or not our boosters were recovered and what kind of funds we'll be getting back from that. And with that, we stage the last of our boosters, and you can see the parachutes already deployed at that point. And with that, we are set to escape the atmosphere. So I'm going to fast forward ahead a little bit. We're going to go ahead and get ourselves ready to circularize. As you see there, I turned down the gimbal limit on the engine. It is still quite intense, but at least this way it won't be wobbling the rocket around a lot. If you find your rocket's engine spinning wildly, you can turn down the gimbaling, and that should calm it more than this. It doesn't matter. We say goodbye to our lifting stage. And I think it would have re-entered the atmosphere on its own. I don't think we were at a high enough periapsis, but better safe than sorry. If we're going to destroy it anyways, might as well be sure of its destruction and not have extra junk circularizing our planet. And here I wanted both the fuel efficiency as well as the thrust to weight on here. The Poodle's thrust to weight is pretty terrible. The Terrier is superior in my opinion, but sadly they don't make a bigger version of it. So let's go ahead and skip ahead to the push towards Midness. We have already changed our inclination. Now all we need to do is make a rendezvous at the correct point. And with that, our side boosters flame out. The Separatrons get them away from our craft. And they too are disposed of. Gotta love the TAC explosives. We're using Flight Computer to take care of our throttle control and when it will execute and terminate our thrust. But it's not perfect, so sometimes we have to come in here and fine-tune it a little bit. Especially with tourist contracts, they demand to be at a certain altitude, and typically it's quite low. So here we are, just kind of motioning it by hand using the retrograde point, but now we're going to actually plot in the maneuver to be completely precise. We use the precise maneuver mod, very helpful. And we also turn down our thrust, so that way we can make a very slight adjustment, but we can do it gradually so we don't overshoot it once again. And we say goodbye to the big blue ball for a little bit as we take our tourists, all having a wonderful time hurtling through space. And we have our maneuver plotted in perfectly. We time warp our way to the sphere of influence change, and then we get notification that our Kerbals have taken their money and ran. Apparently, according to them, we didn't get there soon enough. The contract expired while we were mid-flight. Everyone was having a great time, but the powers that be on land were unhappy, and in doing so, they took all of the funds out of our entire agency, and we took a huge hit in our reputation, and we were left with zero funds. So our Kerbals need to get these Kerbals home more desperately than ever, because we need to prove to them that these Kerbals had a wonderful time and that all the aspects of the contract were met. And here we are doing our flyby of the month. We will be seeing these Kerbals home after that. We've got plenty of Delta V. We are in no danger of stranding them as long as the Kraken keeps at bay and no parts fail. And my computer allows it. We will get these Kerbals home. The failed contracts disappear, and we look here. So our agency is furious that there's no way that we can satisfy them, even though we satisfied all parts of the contract. Kerbals on board said that they would advocate for us, that they would go on testimony and say that they had a wonderful time, and 10 out of 10 would recommend But for now, we just need to focus on getting them home. So with plenty of Delta V to spare, we just brute force our way down, bringing our apoapsis into a stable orbit. When it comes to tourists, there's no such thing as over-planning for resources. Life support, fuel, RCS, spare parts. However you play, you can always add more. And we're just bringing the apoapsis down. You can see we haven't even used up half of our fuel. Meanwhile, on the ground, our lawyers at the KSC are building a case for a repayment to be done. All of the money that was taken out of the KSC's bank account, plus the money that it was due for the contracts completed as per agreed upon, and then 100,000 units for damages and potential loss of the rest of the contracts, because the two Kerbals that were on to go into orbit just for an hour had a grand old time and will honor their contract. And then for the Kerbals who wanted to fly by mid-miss, they too enjoyed their time and they will honor their contract. All the Kerbals want to just see themselves safely home and their photos processed to show their friends and family. So with this, we just try to aim as close to the KSC as possible, but we are still going to be landing in the ocean to guarantee a safe, softer touchdown. There we are. So we point ourselves orbital out, and we jettison our engine and fuel tank, and point our heat shield retrograde. We time warp into the re-entry a little bit. We gotta make sure we can control the reins of this so it doesn't start flipping around. And we keep an eye on to see if we have any heat indicators of any part getting too hot. But the size and shape of the craft lends it to keeping the majority of the craft under control as far as heating comes into play. So we can see the KSC coming down from below us right as our heat starts to dissipate. A little bit later than we would have liked, but we look and we still have the two contracts are being honored. We have to readjust our parachutes because we don't want to have anything open before we are ready. And the first stage pops. And it is looking like our craft is slowing down. And then as we descend through the clouds, we get a glimpse of the ocean below, and the rest of the chutes pop. People on board aren't too happy about being flipped upside down at the last moment, but the people at the mission control got a little vindicated snicker out of that as they awaited the fate of both the space program as well as the fate of the nation as they await the decision of the trial. But for now, the world watches as the Space Bus 1 returns from orbit and splashes down safely. And then, in a historic landmark, the case versus KSC versus the tourists favored into the KSC. And we gained not just the money from all the contracts that were rightfully accepted, but we somehow were paid back, if you will, the amount that was in our funds to begin with, plus the cost of all the contracts. And using that money, we go ahead and we upgrade our observatory, which is going to become a little more useful soon in just 20 some odd days right here. But we will be looking at that a little more in later episodes. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward to more Escaping Kerbin. If you are, please consider giving me a like, drop me a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.